On the day of the commencement of the new school term, as the luxury vehicle came to a halt, my cousin, who was residing in my home, publicly pointed a finger at me and berated me. Wake up. Do not presume that having ridden in a Maybach even once elevates you above others. You are merely a poor relative of mine, seeking to benefit from my family's wealth. Do not think you can masquerade as a wealthy heiress. In my previous life, it was precisely in this manner that she audaciously usurped my identity in front of an audience, orchestrating public opinion to harass me and even enlisting thugs to corner me, ultimately leading to my tragic demise on the streets. Upon my rebirth, I swiftly delivered 2 resounding slaps to her face. Do you, a parasite, presume to make a fuss? Check the car owner's surname. Is it G or Shin? The onlooking classmates immediately raised their phones in unison. Goodness, the G family is so affluent, and Shin Shui always carries herself like a young lady. I heard her father is a driver for the G family, and her mother is a maid. How dare this family, living off the G family, bite back? My cousin's complexion turned ashen, and I approached with a chilling smile. I forgot to mention, from this day forth, your entire family is to vacate my family's villa. By the way, that Chanel piece you are wearing was also purchased with my mother's supplementary card, wasn't it? Remove it. Chapter 1. The crisp sound of slaps reverberated at the opulent entrance of Shingying High School, instantly silencing all the surrounding clamor. Shin Shui covered her face, her eyes wide with disbelief as she glared at me. Ji Zhilai. You dare to strike me? She shrieked, her voice contorted by sheer outrage. The students who had been pointing at us moments earlier now glanced between me and Shin Shui, whose cheeks were swollen and her hair askew. Ultimately, their gazes fell upon the sleek, imposing black Maybach, their expressions rife with confusion and an impending thirst for gossip. I shook my slightly tingling hand and spoke with disdain. Why should I choose a specific day to hit you? Shin Shui, residing in someone else's home, riding in someone else's car, clad in garments purchased by someone else's mother, how dare you point fingers at the owner? Who gave you the audacity? You speak nonsense. Shin Shui, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, erupted in fury, no longer able to maintain her facade of a virtuous white lotus. This is clearly my family's car. You are the one shamelessly living in my home, spending my family's money. Your parents begged mine to take you in, and we barely agreed. This was the same line she had used in my previous life, her tone unchanged. Listening to her words, the memories of my past life surged uncontrollably into my mind. It was at this very school gate that she publicly humiliated me, leaving me speechless, while the public opinion she manipulated branded me as vain, materialistic, and ungrateful. This was followed by a year of relentless bullying, isolation, being doused with filth, having dead rats stuffed in my backpack, my textbooks torn apart, and being cornered by thugs on the streets. In the end, in that dim alley, I was beaten to the brink of death by a few scoundrels summoned by Shin Shui. Just before I perished, I heard her laughing on the phone. Mom, it's all settled. Everything belonging to the G family will now be ours. Fortunately, I have returned. In this life, it is they, the mother and daughter, who shall face despair and descend into hell. I took a step forward, closing the distance to Shin Shui, my gaze sharp as a blade. Your family's car? Shin Shui, could you at least draft a script before lying, or perhaps simply check the vehicle registration? Discover whether this Maybach belongs to the G family or the Shin family. Indeed, as soon as these words were uttered, a wave of astonishment rippled through the crowd. What is happening? The car belongs to Ji Zhilai. Surely not? Shin Shui appears to be well off with her attire and belongings. Everyone says her family is quite wealthy. However, Ji Zhilai seems remarkably confident, and the force of that slap does not suggest guilt. Quickly, check the campus forum. Someone has posted a photo of the vehicle registration. The owner is Ji Mingshu. It is the name of Ji Zhilai's mother. Someone shouted, and the crowd erupted into a flurry, heads bowed to check their phones. Shin Shui's complexion blanched dramatically, her eyes darting in panic, her lips trembling as she attempted to feign composure. So, what of it? Surely my family borrowed it from yours. We have assisted you so much. What is wrong with using a car? Borrowed? I scoffed, my laughter laced with unabashed scorn. Shin Shui, your father is merely the driver for my family's company, and your mother is our maid. Your entire family resides in my family's villa. Have you truly convinced yourself of your ownership after a few years of living there? Have you begun to indulge in the delusion of usurping our place? The weight of my words was monumental, akin to a bomb detonating within the crowd. A driver? A maid? Is that true? No way. So Shin Shui is merely a parasite. She always carries herself like a wealthy heiress. I assumed her family was affluent, but she is actually the daughter of a maid. No wonder Ji Jilai struck her. Who wouldn't be furious at being insulted as a poor relative by the daughter of a maid? This is utterly shameless. The tide of public opinion shifted dramatically. Those who had previously sympathized with Shin Shui or were merely spectators now regarded her with disdain, astonishment, and a sense of betrayal. Shengying High School is an elite institution, placing great importance on family background. For the daughter of a maid to masquerade as a wealthy heiress and act so arrogantly was a direct affront to the collective ire. Shin Shui trembled under the weight of these gazes, likely having never endured such humiliation before, and in a fit of rage, she pointed at me. Ji Jilai, you are slandering me. My parents are partners with the Ji family. We are relatives. Relatives? I replied slowly, retrieving my phone from my backpack and playing a recording. This was my contingency plan, deliberately prepared before departing this morning. I would not suffer the same grievances in this life. The phone emitted the sharp voice of Shin Shui's mother, my Aunt Wang Fangru. Shui, be clever at school. If that wretched Ji girl dares to defy you, humiliate her in public. After all, her mother is abroad, and her father is a spineless fool who will heed our every word. Once we firmly establish her as a vain and ungrateful poor relative, everything belonging to the Ji family will gradually become ours. Your father has driven for the Ji family for over a decade, and I have served their entire family. They owe us. The recording was brief, yet its implications were explosive. The school gate fell silent, save for the lingering echoes of Wang Fengrou's avaricious and malicious voice. Every expression in the crowd resembled that of someone struck by lightning. Shin Shui's face shifted from ashen to a lifeless gray, her entire being seemingly devoid of strength, staggering as if about to collapse. She gazed at me in terror, as if meeting me for the first time. I stowed away my phone and regarded her with a frigid gaze, saying, "Did you hear that? This is the unvarnished truth. A family that thrives on flattery, deception, and parasitism, leeching off my household." My eyes swept disdainfully over her chic, seasonal Chanel dress, and a cruel smile curled at my lips. By the way, Shin Shui, if memory serves me right, that dress you wear, along with your limited edition handbag, were all purchased with my mother's supplementary card, weren't they? Adorning yourself with the funds of the rightful owner, only to turn around and bite the hand that feeds you. What a revelation of your family's values. I paused for a moment, and amidst the astonished gazes of those present, I articulated each word with clarity. Now, get off my family's car. Furthermore, remove everything you have on that was bought with my mother's money. The Ji family does not harbor ungrateful wolves. The command to remove struck like a heavy hammer, landing squarely on Shin Shui's heart and resonating within the nerves of everyone present. For her to disrobe in public? Such humiliation was exponentially more severe than those 2 slaps. Shin Shui abruptly lifted her head, her eyes filled with venomous hatred, nearly dripping with bloodlust. Ji Jili, do not overstep your bounds. Overstepping bounds? I chuckled, a laugh cold and steeped in endless mockery. In comparison to your mother-daughter duo scheming for my demise and seizing my family's assets, this overstepping pales in significance. I turned away from her contorted visage, casting my gaze over the crowd, which was a mix of expressions and phones held aloft. I knew that today's events would spread like wildfire throughout St. Sakura Academy and beyond. I straightened my back, disregarding Shin Shui's desperate cries and the cacophony of murmurs behind me, and walked with measured steps toward the academic building. The first step was accomplished. Next, it was time to confront those opportunistic parents, along with that excessively biased Phoenix man father of mine. I wondered if my dear father, Shen Hongyuan, was being thoroughly beguiled by his gentle and virtuous sister-in-law, preparing to come and seek retribution. I found myself rather looking forward to it. Chapter 2. As I stepped into the academic building, still yet to fully embrace the authenticity of my rebirth, my father's call came crashing through. Ah, how swiftly it arrived. I didn't even need to answer to know what he would say. It was nothing but the lamentations of Shin Shui, weeping like a delicate pear blossom, while my father, perpetually unable to discern right from wrong, would undoubtedly feel pity for his poor niece. In my previous life, it was always this way. Whenever a conflict arose between Shin Shui and me, regardless of the truth, I was the one who bore the brunt of his scolding. He would always say, "Lili, you are the host and Shui is the guest. You must accommodate her. Her parents have sacrificed so much for our family. We cannot be ungrateful. To hell with gratitude. Their family has been draining the blood of the Ji family while plotting our demise." I inhaled deeply and pressed the answer button. Even before bringing the phone to my ear, my father's furious voice erupted. "Ji Jili, you wicked girl. What have you done to Shui? How dare you strike her at the school gate and make her remove her clothes? Have you no sense of decorum? Immediately come to the principal's office and apologize. Otherwise, I will break your legs. His voice was so loud that even passing students turned to glance. Their expressions varied. I expressionlessly held the phone a little farther from my ear, waiting until he was finished before responding in a tone that was calm, yet laced with a hint of mockery. Father, shouting so loudly, are you not afraid of scaring your precious niece? There was a pause on the other end, clearly caught off guard by my reaction. Stop with your sarcasm. Immediately. Right now. Come to the principal's office and kneel to apologize to Shui. Shun Hongyuan's fury intensified, yet his conviction seemed to wane. Kneel and apologize? I let out a light laugh. Father, I believe you have mistaken the parties involved. The one who should kneel in apology is that counterfeit Shui, along with her parasitic parents. What nonsense are you spouting? Counterfeit? Parasites? They are your uncle and aunt. They are benefactors of our family. Benefactors? My tone suddenly turned icy. Benefactors do not plot to eliminate me to seize control of the G family's assets. Benefactors do not incite their daughter to slander me, a poor relative, at the school gate, wishing for my downfall. Father, wake up. Their family is nothing but leeches clinging to us, draining our blood and seeking to gnaw at our bones. Where did you hear such outrageous claims? Has your mother been filling your head with nonsense again? Shun Hongyuan's voice carried disbelief and a hint of barely concealed panic. Don't bring my mother into this. I interrupted sharply. My mother is abroad, tirelessly building her career with the money she earns to support this family, as well as your entire clan of vampires. And what about you? What do you do at home? You are being led around by a nanny, allowing her daughter to ride roughshod over me. Shun Hongyuan. Do you even remember your surname? Do you even remember that I am your biological daughter? The last few words nearly erupted from my lips, as the accumulated grievances and fury of 2 lifetimes surged forth in that moment. The other end of the call fell silent, leaving only heavy breathing. I knew I had struck a nerve. The pride of a man from humble beginnings, along with the long-standing oppression from his wife, was his most sensitive area. After a lengthy pause, Shun Hongyuan finally seemed to regain his voice, albeit with a facade of anger. You've gone too far. How dare you speak to me like that? Come here immediately. Otherwise, I will cancel all your cards. There it was again. In my previous life, he wielded financial control over me, forcing me to bow to Shui time and again. But alas, times have changed. Cancel my cards? I scoffed. Father, have you forgotten? My supplementary card and primary card are both linked to my mother's account. Can you really cancel them? As for the meager allowance you provide me, I paused for effect, my tone dripping with disdain. It wouldn't even cover a sleeve of that Chanel outfit Shui is wearing, would it? You should save it to support your benefactor's family. With that, I hung up, refusing to grant him another opportunity to roar. I swiftly added his number to my blacklist. In my previous life, I had cared too much for that meager semblance of paternal affection, too eager to maintain an appearance of harmony, which ultimately led me to a dead end. In this life, I would not be so naive. I no longer desired these hypocritical affections, nor these venomous relatives. What I sought to reclaim was everything that belonged to me. The dignity and status befitting the eldest daughter of the G family. I tucked my phone away and lifted my gaze, only to meet the astonished and complex expressions of several classmates. Clearly, they had overheard a considerable portion of my recent call. I smirked nonchalantly and strode directly toward the classroom of Class 1 of the first year. Chapter 3. As I entered the classroom, the previously boisterous atmosphere fell into an immediate hush. All eyes, whether curious or disdainful, converged upon me. It was evident that the dramatic scene at the school gate had spread like wildfire throughout the entire grade. I walked purposefully to my seat, which was near the window in the second-to-last row. This spot offered a good view and tranquility, and in my previous life, it had been my favored corner. However, that had changed when Shui and her clique forcibly occupied it, relegating me to a seat beside the trash can in the back row. In this life, no one would dare to claim this position. As I settled into my seat, a stylishly dressed girl from the front row, who was inseparable from Shui, turned to me with exaggerated surprise and unabashed malice. Oh, isn't this our esteemed Miss G? I heard you were quite the tyrant at the school gate, even daring to strike Shui? Do you truly believe that having ridden in a Maybach once elevates you above others? Her name was Lin Shushu, a girl from a somewhat affluent family, and she had always been Shui's #1 sycophant. In my previous life, She had contributed significantly to Shinshui's bullying of me. I lifted my gaze and coldly shot her a glance. Lin Shushu, when the host speaks, the dog should refrain from interrupting. Lin Shushu's face flushed crimson. Who are you calling a dog? Whoever responds is one, I replied flatly, yet with an undeniable air of authority. Furthermore, let me clarify, it was not just a ride in a Maybach. That car belongs to my family, and I am its rightful owner. As for Shinshui, I purposely paused, successfully capturing the attention of the entire class. She merely resides in my home. Her father is my family's driver, and her mother is our maid. Does the daughter of a maid truly have the right to raise her voice in my presence? When I struck her, it was to teach her manners. A wave of astonishment rippled through the classroom. Although the news had already circulated, hearing it spoken aloud by me was profoundly impactful. Goodness, it's true. Shinshui, who is usually so ostentatious, I thought her family was so impressive. The daughter of a driver and a maid? No wonder Ji Jili exploded. I wouldn't be able to tolerate it either. Lin Shushu was left speechless, her complexion shifting from green to white, clearly taken aback by my directness and lack of mercy. After several moments of struggle, she finally retorted weakly. You're making things up. Shuyi is not that kind of person. You must be jealous of her. Jealous? I felt as though I had heard the grandest of jokes. Jealous of her, a parasite? Jealous of her dependence on stealing my clothes and swiping my mother's card for a semblance of status? Lin Shushu. If you're going to flatter someone, at least use your brain. Otherwise, you might end up slapping the horse's leg and attracting trouble for yourself. You. Lin Shushu trembled with rage, yet could find no words to retort. At that moment, a commotion arose at the classroom door. I turned to see Shinshui. Her head bowed, eyes swollen, flanked by a few girls. She had changed into a plain tracksuit, and the vivid red handprint on her face had yet to fade completely, rendering her a pitiful sight, starkly contrasting with her previous arrogance. Upon entering, she cast me a glance filled with grievance before quickly lowering her head, her shoulders slightly shaking as if she were suppressing her indignation. What a talented actress. It would be a shame for her not to pursue a career in acting. As anticipated, her appearance immediately drew sympathy from several classmates. Shuyi, are you alright? Lin Shushu rushed over, her concern palpable. Shushu,
IM fine.
Shinshui's voice quivered. It's not Jili's fault. She may just have some misunderstanding of me. Not this routine again. In her past life, she perpetually assumed the role of the victim, casting me as the arrogant and unreasonable antagonist. A misunderstanding? What kind of misunderstanding could compel her to act with such severity? Lin Shushu glared at me indignantly, declaring, Ji Jili, you must apologize to Shu Yi. Apologize? I rose from my seat and advanced toward Shinshu Yi with deliberate steps. My gaze was frigid, exuding an oppressive pressure. Shinshu Yi instinctively recoiled, a flicker of fear flashing across her eyes. Shinshu Yi, I halted before her. My voice not loud yet sufficiently audible for the entire class. Would you like me to replay the recording from this morning for everyone to hear? To listen to how your mother incited you and plotted to seize my family's wealth? Instantly, Shinshu Yi's complexion drained of color, her body swaying as she stammered. Why you're talking nonsense? That was fabricated by you. Whether it's fabricated or not, let your mother confront me about it. I closed the distance, my tone chilling. Or perhaps we should head to the property management to review the surveillance footage and see who enters and exits my family's villa, as if they belong there. And who follows my father like a lapdog, the driver? The benefactor? Spare me the farce. I surveyed the classroom, my gaze sharp. Today, I lay down the law. Ji Jili, and the legitimate heiress of the Ji family, Shinshu Yi's family, are merely the driver and housekeeper we employ, residing in my home. Previously, I tolerated their presence, but from this day forth, anyone who cannot distinguish their place and follows certain individuals to bark at me. My gaze lingered momentarily on Lin Shushu's face, causing her to flinch. Then don't blame me for being ungracious. Ji Jili, am not to be trifled with. With that, I turned away from the pale-faced Shinshu Yi and the silent crowd, returning to my seat. The classroom fell into a profound silence. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Everyone was taken aback by my ruthless and weighty words. Their gazes toward me underwent a complete transformation, shifting from confusion and curiosity to shock, apprehension, and even a hint of reverence. I recognized that my goal of establishing authority had been achieved, at least on the surface. For the foreseeable future, no one would dare to provoke me lightly. Shin Shu-yi bit her lip fiercely, her nails digging into her palm. She gazed at the figure sitting by the window, back straight, radiating an icy and formidable aura, Ji Zili, and felt an unprecedented surge of panic and resentment. How had this inept heiress suddenly transformed into someone so formidable?
No.
She must not rise again. Otherwise, all the schemes her family had plotted for years would come to naught. Ji Zili, you must be disgraced. You must vanish. A malicious glint flickered in Shen Shu-yi's eyes. Chapter 4. The first lesson was mathematics, with the teacher passionately lecturing while most students below remained disengaged. The faint glow of phone screens flickered beneath the desks. The campus forum of Shingying High School had erupted into chaos. The top posts, each more sensational than the last, bore titles that were nothing short of shocking. Breaking. A sensational revelation. The school belle Shin Shu-yi's true identity is that of a housekeeper's daughter. A usurper biting back at the real heiress. Attached, undeniable audio evidence. Listen to how the housekeeper and her daughter conspired to seize the family fortune.
Amoral autrai.
Video proof. Ji Zili fiercely tearing apart the false heiress at the school gate. 2 slaps, crisp and resounding. Deep dive into Shin Shu-yi's years of flaunting wealth. Clothes, bags, jewelry. All seemingly charged to G's mother's secondary card. The posts were richly illustrated, including excerpts from my morning recording and various angles of the confrontation at the school gate. Shin Shu-yi's comments about exploiting distant relatives and her mother Wang Fanru's scheming to seize wealth stood in stark, ironic contrast. The comment section was equally vibrant. 1L. Wow. What a dramatic turn. Shin Shu-yi's usual air of superiority was merely an act. 2L. The recording is nauseating. This family of vampires has such a cruel heart. 3L. Ji Zili is so cool. Those 2 slaps were so satisfying. I've long found that White Lotus Shin Shu-yi displeasing. 4L. So Shin Shu-yi's designer items are truly horrifying when you think about it. She's buying them with someone else's mother's card? 5L. To the commenter above, I remember she flaunted a limited edition bag last week, claiming her father brought it back from abroad. Now, thinking back, ISN to your father a driver? 6L. Shin Shu-yi care to explain? A housekeeper's daughter masquerading as a young lady. What about your dignity? 7L. Am I the only one feeling sympathy for Ji Zili? Being bullied by the housekeeper's daughter, while her biological father shows favoritism? 8L. Ji Zili seemed quite low-key before. She must have been pushed to the limit? 9L. If it were me, I'd be furious too. Who could endure being treated like this? 10L. Support Ji, the young lady, in clearing her household of these vampires. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with me. Occasionally, a few of Shin Shu-yi's diehard fans or uninformed individuals attempted to speak on her behalf, but they were swiftly drowned out by the cacophony of voices. Human nature tends to side with the strong and shift with the wind, especially in an environment like Shingying. When Shin Shu-yi's aura as the affluent young lady was pierced, revealing the truth of her being a housekeeper's daughter, those who once sought her favor suddenly turned to trample her. During the break, as Shin Shu-yi attempted to head to the restroom, she was deliberately jostled by a few girls who usually surrounded her. Oh, dear, my apologies. I didn't see you here, young lady, one of the girls exaggeratedly apologized. Her eyes filled with disdain. Shin Shu-yi stumbled, nearly falling, her face paling in humiliation. A wave of suppressed laughter rippled through the surrounding crowd. Gritting her teeth, she lowered her head and hastily exited the classroom, her back appearing frantic and disheveled. Lin Shushu wanted to follow her but was pulled back by another girl. Shushu. Why bother with her? Don't you fear catching her poverty? Lin Shushu paused, glancing at the mocking gazes around her, ultimately lacking the courage to follow. I sat leisurely in my seat, casually flipping through a book, observing everything with detached indifference. Is this what you can't endure? Shin Shu-yi, in your previous life, you basked in admiration while I struggled to breathe. How does it feel now? Chapter 5. The calm did not last long. Just as the second lesson began, the classroom door was forcefully flung open. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Lee, entered with a furrowed brow, followed closely by a furious Shun Hongyuan and a timid, red-eyed Shin Shu-yi hiding behind him.
Yes, hele.
Come out here this instant. Shun Hongyuan bellowed upon spotting me, his voice echoing throughout the classroom. The students' attention once again focused on us, brimming with excitement for the spectacle. Mr. Lee's expression darkened. Mr. Shin, please mind the occasion. It is class time. Mr. Lee, I apologize. but I must confront this ungrateful girl and inquire what she intends to do. Shan Hongyuan, clearly beside himself with rage, disregarded the setting entirely. He pointed at the swelling bruise on Shin Shu-Yi's face, lamenting to me, Look. Look at what you've done to Shu-Yi. She is your cousin. How could you lay a hand on her? And what nonsense are you posting on the forum? Delete it immediately. Apologize to Shu-Yi. At a fitting moment, Shin Shu-Yi let out a small sob, inching closer to Shan Hongyuan, presenting herself as the epitome of a wronged flower. I observed this farce, my heart icy. This is my father, unwaveringly siding with outsiders without discernment. I slowly rose, my voice calm and steady. Dad, you want me to apologize? That's fine. But before I do, could you answer me a few questions? Shan Hongyuan was taken aback, not expecting my composure. What do you want to ask? First, I raised my index finger. Shin Shu-Yi accused me of being a poor relative who exploits her, claiming that this car belongs to her family. She publicly defamed me. How do we settle this? That was just her being upset. You provoked her first. Upset? I scoffed so. The things her mother said in the recording about wanting to eliminate me and seize the family fortune were merely said in anger as well. Shan Hongyuan's expression changed dramatically, his gaze flickering with uncertainty. How do we know that recording isn't a fabrication of yours? Whether it's a forgery or not can easily be determined by the police. I asserted unwaveringly. Or perhaps, shall I summon my aunt for confrontation? Shan Hongyuan was momentarily at a loss for words. He was acutely aware that the recording was most likely genuine. He understood Wang Fengrou's true nature all too well, yet he was reluctant to admit it, or perhaps he simply did not wish to offend the woman who catered to his every whim. Next, I raised my second finger. Isn't it true that the Chanel attire Shin Shui wears, the LV bag she carries, and the jade bracelet adorning her mother's wrist were all purchased using my mother's supplementary card? Father, please do not tell me you are unaware. The expenditure records from the supplementary card are sent to your email each month. Cold sweat beaded on Shan Hongyuan's forehead. That was your mother's consent for them to buy those things. We're all family. Family? I interrupted, my voice rising sharply. Who considers them family? My mother's surname is Ji. I bear the Ji name. So, do you? They are Shun. They are merely servants. Do you understand? Living off the master's wealth while plotting against the master's daughter. Can there truly exist such a family in this world? My inquiries struck like heavy hammers, resonating in the hearts of everyone present. The classroom fell into an eerie silence. My classmates gazed at Shan Hongyuan with expressions of disdain and disbelief. Could there really be such a muddled and biased father? Shan Hongyuan was left speechless, his face flushed a deep shade of crimson. Infuriated and humiliated, you've gone too far. I am your father. Do I not have authority over you?
Li Laoshi. Look.
This is the daughter I have raised. Li Laoshi frowned, about to speak, but I preempted him, fixing my gaze on Shan Hongyuan, enunciating each word. Shan Hongyuan, listen well. From this day forth, my affairs are none of your concern. You lack the power to intervene. Shan Hongyuan trembled with rage. Furthermore, I turned my attention to Shin Shui, who was shivering behind him, a cruel smile curving my lips. If you care so deeply for your precious niece, then take her and vacate my home. My abode is too modest to accommodate two such imposing figures.
Yizhile.
Shan Hongyuan's fury reached its zenith as he raised his hand to strike me. The entire class gasped in horror. Yet, I stood my ground, unflinching, regarding him with an icy stare devoid of warmth, only a profound chill and disappointment. Shan Hongyuan's hand froze midair, stunned by my gaze. It was not the look of a typical 16-year-old girl. Rather, it encompassed a myriad of emotions he could not comprehend. Coldness, hatred, and a biting sarcasm that seemed to see through everything. Ultimately, that hand did not descend. He let it drop dejectedly, appearing to age several years in an instant, his lips quivering, yet he could utter no words. Mr. Shin, please remain calm. Li Laoshi intervened, stepping in between us. This is a school. Any issues should be resolved privately. Shan Hongyuan shot me a glare filled with a complex mixture of anger, embarrassment, and perhaps a hint of barely concealed fear. He ultimately said nothing, dragging the still sobbing Shin Shui out of the classroom in a disheveled manner. Chapter 6. Shan Hongyuan and Shin Shui left in disgrace. Yet the atmosphere in the classroom remained tumultuous. Li Laoshi cast a glance in my direction, his expression complicated, but he ultimately refrained from saying much, directing everyone to resume lessons. Clearly, few could concentrate. I returned to my seat, feigning calm while my mind raced with calculations. Shun Hongyuan had suffered a considerable defeat at my hands today. Given his temperament, he would surely not let it rest. He would likely seek to tell my mother, or perhaps vent his frustrations on that entire family of parasites. No, more likely, he would be soothed by Wang Fengrou's sweet words and turn his ire back towards me. I needed to strike while the iron was hot, to act decisively before they could regroup. With this thought, I retrieved my phone, discreetly avoiding the teacher's gaze, and quickly sent a lengthy message to my mother's chief assistant, Aunt Lin Lin, who was her most trusted confidant. In the message, I succinctly recounted the events of the day, including Shen Shi's public slander, Wang Fengrou's recording, and Shun Hongyuan's bias and threats, emphasizing their malicious intentions to usurp family assets and even harm me. I knew my mother was abroad at a critical juncture in her business expansion and could not be easily disturbed. However, Aunt Lin Lin was decisive and utterly loyal to my mother. She knew how to handle such matters. Within 5 minutes of sending the message, Aunt Lin Lin replied with a concise affirmation, "Miss Shili, well done. Rest assured, leave it to me." Upon receiving this response, a weight lifted from my chest. With Aunt Lin Lin's intervention, the days of Wang Fengrou's family were numbered. Indeed, just after the first class concluded that afternoon, my phone vibrated with a call from an unfamiliar local number. I stepped to the end of the corridor and answered. "Hello?" On the other end, Wang Fengrou's voice was frantic and tinged with fear.
Yizilla.
"Was this your doing? The property management just visited, claiming they want to reclaim the villa. They've given us until today to vacate." "On what grounds?" I replied nonchalantly. "On what grounds? The house bears the G name, not the Shen. Wang auntie. After being our housekeeper for over a decade, you surely understand this basic principle, don't you? The master of the house decides who stays and who leaves without needing to explain it to you. You little wretch. Does Hongyuan know? He will never agree to this." Wang Fangrou screeched, invoking Shun Hongyuan's name. "Feel free to consult him," I retorted with a cold laugh. "Let us see whose words carry weight now. And, as a reminder, before you leave, please return anything that doesn't belong to you. For instance, the clothes, bags, and jewelry purchased with my mother's supplementary card. And I recall a set of ruby jewelry left by my grandmother is missing from the safe. If you wish to avoid police involvement, it would be wise to return it promptly." Panic seeped into Wang Fengrou's voice. "What are you talking about? I know nothing of any ruby jewelry." "Know nothing?" I interjected frostily. "Shall I retrieve the purchase records and the safe's access logs and present them to the police? The value of the theft is substantial enough to keep your family incarcerated for years." Silence reigned on the other end, broken only by Wang Fengrou's labored, terrified breaths. After a long pause, she seemed drained, her voice dripping with venom. "Ji Li, you are ruthless. Not nearly as cruel as you and your daughter, who would even contemplate murder," I responded coldly. "Remember, vacate my home before dark today. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to involve the police in your relocation." With that, I hung up, imagining the twisted expression on Wang Fengrou's face, and Shen Shi's desperate cries filled me with a sense of satisfaction. This was merely a retrieval of a small interest. During the afternoon classes, I focused intently, acutely aware of the importance of knowledge and ability. The tragedies of my past life were not solely due to Shen Shi's family's malice. My own cowardice and incompetence played a significant role. In this lifetime, I vowed to grow strong both inside and out. As the school bell rang, I packed my bag and strolled out of the classroom at a leisurely pace. As expected, I encountered that familiar Maybach waiting at the school gate. However, this time, only my glowering uncle, Shen Fuchuan, stood beside the car. Upon seeing me, his eyes reflected a complex mix of anger, resentment, and, more than anything, a stifled indignation. "Miss," he nearly spat the words through clenched teeth. I cast him a fleeting glance, remaining silent as I opened the car door and took my seat. The vehicle glided smoothly toward the villa district. Throughout the journey, Shun Fuchuan remained tight-lipped, the atmosphere thick with tension. As we approached the villa, I suddenly spoke. "Uncle Shen." He stiffened, glancing at me through the rear-view mirror. "You have driven for our family for over a decade. Your efforts, though unrecognized, have not gone unnoticed." My demeanor was calm. "Thus, as long as you all remain within your bounds, I can overlook past grievances. You may continue your work." However, I shifted my tone, my gaze piercing as I looked into the rear-view mirror to meet his eyes. "Should you dare to entertain thoughts that are unworthy or undertake actions that are improper, do not blame me for lacking compassion. Wang Fangru and Shin Shi serve as prime examples. Shin Fuchuan's grip on the steering wheel tightened abruptly, the veins on the back of his hand bulging ominously. His lips moved slightly, yet ultimately, he uttered nothing, merely nodding in resignation. I understood that Shin Fuchuan possessed far more awareness than his foolish wife and daughter. Having delivered this admonition, I deemed it sufficient. For the time being, keeping him was more prudent than replacing him with an unknown driver. The car halted at the entrance of the villa. Unlike usual, the area was in disarray. Several large suitcases were haphazardly piled, and Wang Fangru stood with her hands on her hips, vociferously berating the property staff, while Shin Shi cowered nearby, her head bowed in tears, surrounded by neighbors who were whispering and pointing. Upon seeing me exit the vehicle, Wang Fangru's expression morphed into one of sheer rage, as if she had encountered the slayer of her kin. Ji, you wretched little harlot. May you suffer a most unfortunate demise. The property staff rushed to restrain her. I watched her tantrum with cold detachment, my gaze sweeping over the scattered suitcases and the expensive clothing and jewelry strewn about, including my grandmother's set of ruby jewelry, carelessly shoved into a bag. Aunt Wang, it seems you have chosen to summon the police for assistance? I brandished my phone as if to dial. Wang Fangru froze, her complexion paling.
No.
Don't call the police, she shrieked, her fear finally surfacing. We'll leave. We'll leave at once. In a flurry, she shoved the luxury items that clearly did not belong to them into the suitcases, shooting me a venomous glare, her eyes like daggers laced with poison.
Yizvili?
You wait. This matter is far from over. I awaited her response with a slight smile. However, before that, perhaps you should find somewhere to stay. After all, a 5-star hotel may be beyond your means given your current income. Wang Fangru was nearly rendered unconscious with rage, held back firmly by Shin Fuchuan. Shin Shi raised her tear-streaked face to look at me, her eyes brimming with resentment. Ji Jili, you will come to regret this. Regret? I approached her. My voice a mere whisper meant only for her ears. Shin Shi, the only ones who will regret this will be you. Everything you inflicted upon me in the past life, I will reclaim, piece by piece. Just wait. This is merely the beginning. Shin Shi's pupils dilated. As if she had heard something profoundly terrifying, her gaze fixed on me in horror. I paid them no further mind. Nodding to the property staff. Thank you for your assistance. Please ensure they leave. From now on, this family is prohibited from entering the community without my permission. Understood.
Miss G.
Rest assured. Amidst the varied gazes and murmurs of the neighbors, I straightened my back and walked into the villa, which had finally regained its tranquility. Behind me, Wang Fangru's hysterical curses and Shin Shi's desperate sobs echoed. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow upon the polished floor. I inhaled deeply. At last, the nauseating stench of hypocrisy and scheming had dissipated. The first obstacle had been removed. Yet, I was acutely aware that the battle was far from over. Wang Fangru and her daughter would not acquiesce easily, and Shin Hongyuan remained a lurking threat. Furthermore, the individuals who had harmed me in my past life were not limited to the Shin family. I retrieved my phone, gazing at the contact labeled Mom, hesitating momentarily before refraining from making the call. Mother, please wait a little longer. Once I have eradicated the pests infesting our home, once I possess the means to protect both myself and you, I will reveal to you a different Ji Jili. Chapter 7. After expelling Wang Fangru's family, the villa was significantly quieter. Shin Hongyuan did not return that night, likely too ashamed to face me or perhaps seeking solace in drink elsewhere. I relished the peace, preparing a simple meal for myself before beginning to strategize my next steps. Academic pursuits could not be neglected. They were the foundation of my existence. In my past life, my studies were thrown into disarray by Shin Shi's interference, and this time I was determined to gain admission to the finest university. Moreover, I needed to keep a watchful eye on my mother's company. In my previous life, she had fallen prey to a business trap abroad, resulting in significant losses. Shin Hongyuan and Wang Fangru had conspired together to seize control, which was also a key factor leading to the subsequent tragedy. In this lifetime, I must prepare for all contingencies. Lastly, I needed to address those who had caused me harm in my past life. Shin Shi was merely the first, but certainly not the last. Lost in thought, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, though the last digits seemed vaguely recognizable. I furrowed my brow and answered. Hello. Is this Jili? A gentle male voice came through, laced with feigned concern. Hearing that voice caused my stomach to churn. Gu Minglang. The man from my past life, who professed his love for me, yet when I was ensnared by Shinshui's machinations and needed help the most, he unhesitatingly sided with her, even assisting in my defamation. He was a classmate of both Shinshui and me, hailing from a well-off family, handsome in appearance, and one of the school's prominent figures. In my previous life, I had been ensnared by his duplicitous charm, mistaking it for true love, only to be left utterly devastated. Is there something you need? My tone was as frigid as ice. Gu Minglang seemed momentarily taken aback by my chilliness, but he quickly adjusted his tone, adopting an even softer demeanor. Jili, I heard about the unpleasantness between you and Shui today. Are you alright?
I'm quite worried about you.
Worried about me? More like worried for Shin Shui. I surmised he was attempting to glean information, or perhaps defend his precious Shui. I inwardly scoffed but purposely infused my voice with a hint of grievance and vulnerability. I am not well. Minglang, why did Sister Shui say those things about me? And do Aunt Wang and the others truly despise me? On the other end, Gu Minglang was evidently caught off guard by my reaction, falling into silence for a few seconds before responding with feigned concern. Jili, please don't be upset. I believe you are not that kind of person. There must have been some misunderstanding. She may have acted out of impulse. You know, she has a kind heart. A kind heart? I nearly burst into laughter. Gu Minglang, your level of blindness is truly unparalleled. Really? I continued to play along, my voice tinged with a whimper. But she said such terrible things about me in front of everyone, and my classmates are mocking me. The things people are saying online are so hurtful. Minglang, you are all I have now. I deliberately left my words vague. Sure enough, Gu Minglang's voice took on a subtle tone of satisfaction and calculation, likely thinking I was as easily deceived as in my past life. Jili, don't worry. I'll be there for you. Tomorrow at school, I'll pick you up. Together, we'll see who dares to speak ill of you. The objective has been revealed. He sought to draw near to me, playing the gallant protector, both soothing me and attempting to impress Shinshui with his charm and capability. Really? Thank you, Minglang. I feigned surprise before shifting my tone to feigned hesitation. But our driver, Uncle Shen, might not be in the best mood lately, and I'm afraid I intentionally mentioned Shin Fuchuan, hinting at the upheaval in my family situation. Gu Minglang immediately took the bait. No worries. I'll have my family's driver pick you up. It's settled then. I'll be waiting for you at your community entrance at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Alright, see you tomorrow, I timidly replied. After hanging up, the facade of vulnerability and grievance evaporated from my face, replaced by cold mockery. Gu Minglang, since you have so willingly approached me, do not blame me for tidying up both you and Shinshui. In our past lives, did you not thrive on the role of a tragic couple? This time, I shall grant you an unforgettable performance of disgrace. The following morning, I deliberately chose a simple yet exquisitely tailored dress, applying a light touch of makeup, presenting an image of purity laced with an air of aloofness. At 7:30, I arrived punctually at the entrance of the community. As anticipated, Gu Minglang awaited my arrival, leaning against a striking blue sports car, attired in a crisp white shirt, his meticulously styled hair capturing the attention of several passers-by. Upon noticing me, his eyes gleamed with excitement, and he instantly donned a self-assured smile, approaching me with an air of misplaced charm. Jili, you look truly beautiful today. I regarded him with a faint glance, choosing not to respond, and effortlessly opened the car door to take my seat in the passenger side. Gu Minglang appeared momentarily taken aback, seemingly unprepared for my aloof demeanor, but he quickly regained his composure. Settling into the driver's seat and initiating a conversation filled with banal pleasantries and feigned concern, I responded with minimal engagement, my gaze occasionally drifting outside the window, where I unexpectedly spotted a familiar figure, Shinshui, lurking behind a tree, her eyes fixated on us, brimming with palpable jealousy and resentment. Clearly, Gu Minglang's decision to pick me up was not a secret from her. Or perhaps he intended for her to see this? Intriguing. A subtle smirk tugged at the corners of my lips. Upon arriving at school, Gu Minglang deliberately parked in the most conspicuous spot at the entrance, then exited the car, gallantly opening the door for me and attempting to assist me with a show of intimacy. I deftly evaded his hand and alighted independently. Yet, this spectacle had already been witnessed by numerous early arriving classmates.
Wow.
Gu Xiao and Ji Zhili came together? When did they become so close? Wasn't Gu Xiao always interested in Shinshui? TSK, how could Gu Xiao still have eyes for her after all that? Ji Zhili is now truly a wealthy heiress. Gu Xiao's taste is impeccable. The murmurs echoed around us. Gu Mingling reveled in their chatter, a hint of pride etched on his face. This was precisely the effect he sought, both to placate me and to declare to everyone that he, Gu Mingling, had chosen the more valuable Ji Zhili. As we walked side by side through the school gates, I could feel countless gazes upon us, some curious, some envious, and others, particularly from Shinshui, radiating a venomous intensity. Approaching the teaching building, Gu Mingling suddenly lowered his voice, adopting a seemingly concerned tone. Zhili, while Shui is at fault regarding those forum posts, the uproar could tarnish your family's reputation. How about I speak with Shui and have her apologize, and you can delete the posts? After all, one should show mercy, when possible. The facade crumbled. His true intentions finally surfaced. He had come as a mediator for Shinshui. I halted, turning to face him with an innocent smile. Mingling, your compassion is commendable, even for Shui. Gu Mingling, mistaking my words for agreement, allowed a flicker of joy to cross his face. However, I swiftly shifted the tone of our conversation, my voice low yet audible enough for our attentive peers. But she and her mother have attempted to harm me and seize my family as assets. Can that truly be considered a mere mistake? Shouldn't this be classified as attempted crime? What do you think? I should show them mercy, or perhaps report them to the authorities? Gu Mingling's smile faltered, his face shifting through shades of green and white. A collective gasp arose from the onlookers. Report them? My heavens! Ji Zhili is serious. Gu Xiao's attempt at reconciliation had backfired. It seemed Gu Mingling's relationship with Shinshui was far from ordinary, as he still defended her at this juncture. The scrutiny and gossip weighed heavily on him. And for the first time, I saw a mixture of anger and calculation in his gaze. He appeared to finally grasp that the Ji Zhili standing before him was no longer the naive, easily duped heiress he once perceived. I withdrew my smile, my gaze icy as I addressed him. Gu Mingling, my affairs do not require your concern. Whatever transaction or bond you share with Shinshui is your own business. Do not involve me. Chapter 8. Gu Mingling was left humiliated by our exchange, his demeanor shadowed with gloom throughout the day. He had likely never faced such disgrace before a girl. Yet this was exactly the outcome I desired. At the end of the school day, he predictably refrained from approaching me. I relished the tranquility, returning home in Shun Fuchuan's car. Throughout the journey, Shun Fuchuan was even more taciturn than the previous day, his demeanor tinged with an almost imperceptible anxiety. The reality of Wang Fangru and her daughter being cast out had evidently clarified the situation for him. That evening, after completing my homework, I logged into the campus forum once more. As anticipated, the earlier upheaval had given rise to new threads. Some debated Gu Mingling's shifting affections. Others speculated about the extent of my family's wealth, and numerous voices called for Shinshui to step forward and offer her explanation. Shinshui's account remained ominously silent, as if it were lifeless. However, I was aware she would not remain passive. She and Wang Fangru were undoubtedly like two venomous serpents, lurking in the shadows, plotting their revenge against me. Given this, I had no qualms about stoking the flames further. I retrieved a spare phone and an anonymous account, uploading a meticulously edited audio recording to the forum. The title was deliberately sensational. Hard Evidence. Listen to Gu Xiao as he juggles two relationships, deceiving the genuine heiress while colluding with the false one. The contents of the recording were a compilation of my morning conversation with Gu Mingling, stripped of my voice, leaving only his words. Zhili, don't be upset. I believe you are not that kind of person. Shui may have acted impulsively. You know, she is actually quite kind-hearted. How about I pick you up for school tomorrow? I'll be with you, and let us see who dares to speak ill of you. Zhili, while Shui is at fault, the uproar could tarnish your family's reputation. Shall I speak with Shui and have her apologize so you can delete the posts? After all, one should show mercy when possible. Once this recording surfaced, the forum erupted anew.
Wow.
Gu Mingling's actions are outrageous. This morning he drove Ji Zhili to school, playing the gallant protector, only to turn around and plead for Shinshui, clearly attempting to please both sides. What a scoundrel. A quintessential cad. Is he treating Ji Zhili like a fool? It seems he genuinely has a thing for Shinshui. Ji Zhili handled that brilliantly. She must have ignored him. Gu Mingling's reputation crumbled before their eyes. Previously, some may have envied him for winning me over. Now, he was met with scorn. I watched with satisfaction as the forum descended into chaos. Gu Mingling, if you wish to play, I shall match your game with an even grander scheme. This was merely a prelude. True to form, It wasn't long before I received a frantic phone call from Gu Mingling. The number was new, yet his voice was unmistakable.
Yazil.
Was this your doing?
You recorded me.
How despicable. His gentle facade had shattered, revealing a voice filled with fury and panic. I responded nonchalantly. Gu Mingling, are you afraid of your own words? Were those not your statements? Did I coerce you into saying them?
You.
Gu Mingling was momentarily at a loss for words, before finally spitting out, "What do you want?" "I want nothing," I replied coldly, "simply for you to confront reality. Do not mistake me for a fool, and do not appear before me again. You disgust me."
Yazil.
"Don't get too cocky. Who do you think you are? If it weren't for your family's wealth, I would— What would you do?" I interrupted, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Would you come to charm me, this naive heiress? Alas, I am no longer inclined to play along. Go back to your kind-hearted Shinshui. Those ill-fated lovebirds deserve to be locked away, lest they wreak havoc on others." Chapter 9. After dealing with Gu Mingling, my life momentarily returned to tranquility. Shinshui had taken sick leave and did not attend school. Gu Mingling also kept his distance, opting to avoid me altogether. The fervor on the forum gradually subsided, yet the gazes of my classmates now brimmed with respect, and no one dared to provoke me lightly. After school that day, I was astonished to find Shun Honyuan had returned. He sat on the sofa in the living room, the ashtray before him overflowing with cigarette butts, and his entire demeanor appeared haggard and disheartened. Upon noticing my entrance, he lifted his head, his gaze intricate, and opened his mouth as if to speak. Yet the words seemed to falter on his lips. I ignored him and strode directly upstairs. Finally, he spoke, his voice raspy. "Let us talk." I halted, turned around, and regarded him with indifference. "About what?" "About how you intend to seek justice for your benefactor's family." A flicker of discomfort crossed Shun Hongyuan's face as he rubbed his hands together, his tone deliberately softened. "Lili, I acknowledge my past errors. I was biased and unjust, causing you undue distress."
Oh?
Is the sun rising from the west today? A sincere apology? I scoffed inwardly, maintaining an impassive exterior. And then what? Shun Honyuan, sensing my frosty demeanor, grew anxious. "I have reflected. Fong Ro and Shu Yi indeed overstepped their bounds. I have reprimanded them. Rest assured, I shall ensure fairness in the future." Observing his frantic display of loyalty, I found it laughable. He had uttered such promises more than once in my previous life. Yet each time, he merely turned his back, forgetting his words the moment Wang Fong Ro shed a few tears or Shin Shu Yi feigned distress.
So what? I pressed on.
Shun Honyuan leaned in closer, lowering his voice, adopting a self-righteous tone that he presumed was for my benefit. "Li, look at the turmoil at home. How disgraceful it would be if it got out. It tarnishes your reputation. How about you delete those posts on the forums? I'll have Shu Yi formally apologize to you, and we can consider this matter resolved, shall we? After all, we are family. And if your mother were to hear of this while abroad, she would worry, wouldn't she?" The truth was laid bare. After all the circumlocution, it was still about pleading for Shin Shu Yi and her mother, attempting to persuade me to erase my posts and bury the issue. I perceived the calculation and unease glimmering in his eyes and suddenly grasped his urgency. It was not merely about my mother learning the truth, but also about the potential repercussions on his standing and reputation at work. After all, who would respect a man incapable of managing his own family affairs? Allowing a housekeeper to bully his own daughter? "Father," I said, my tone steady yet laced with an icy sharpness, "do you truly believe I am so easily deceived?" Shun Hongyuan's expression stiffened. "Why would you say such a thing, father? Wang Fong Ro wishes to see me dead, and Shin Shu Yi seeks to ruin me. In your eyes, is this merely excessive? An apology will suffice?" I advanced towards him, my gaze piercing. "Moreover, do not invoke my mother lightly. If she were to discover that her daughter nearly lost her life due to someone's malice, how do you suppose she would react?" Shun Honyuan faltered under my questioning, cold sweat beading on his forehead. "Li, it's not that serious. They merely had a woman's quarrel, nothing more." "A quarrel?" I echoed with a derisive laugh, pulling out my phone and playing the recording of Wang Fong Ro's voice aloud. "As long as her portrayal as a vain relative is established, everything from the Ji family will gradually belong to us." Wang Fong Ro's greedy and venomous voice reverberated throughout the living room. Shun Hongyuan's complexion turned ashen. "Is this merely a quarrel?" I ceased the recording and fixed him with a cold stare. "Shun Honyuan, let me make myself clear. I will not delete the posts. An apology? I have no need for it. I will not let Shin Shu Yi or Wang Fong Ro off the hook. If you wish to continue being my father, Then know your place and steer clear of those bloodsuckers. Otherwise, I paused, my gaze sweeping over his slightly trembling hands. I wouldn't hesitate to inform Aunt Lin about the peril I faced while she was away. Do you think my mother will believe you or me? Shun Hongyuan sank back into the sofa, his face ashen. He understood I had tightened my grip on his Achilles heel. Everything he had depended upon my mother. If she were to learn of these matters, his fortuitous days would be over. Li. He stammered, unable to articulate his thoughts fully. I turned away and ascended the stairs, aware that today's conversation had temporarily subdued him. Yet, a dog cannot change its nature, especially someone like Shun Hongyuan, who is inherently insecure and greedy. Given the opportunity, he would likely revert to Wang Fengrou's side. Chapter 10 on the weekend. I received a call from Aunt Lin. Miss G, there is an important business banquet tomorrow evening. Mr. G was originally scheduled to attend, but an urgent meeting has arisen. The other companies specifically requested a member of the G family to represent them as a sign of respect. Would you be able to attend in Mr. G's stead? A thrill of excitement coursed through me. This was an opportunity. A chance to engage with my mother's business connections and showcase my stature as the G family's young lady. Absolutely, Aunt Lin. Please send me the time and location. And let me know what I should prepare. I replied without hesitation. Very well. I will arrange for a gown and stylist. Please be mindful that there may be some reporters at the event. Just maintain your decorum, and primarily, it's about making an appearance to express Mr. G's importance in this matter. I will handle the rest. Aunt Lin was exceptionally meticulous in her arrangements. After hanging up, I felt a surge of exhilaration. In my past life, I had been timid and introverted, dreading such occasions. But in this life, I would confront challenges head-on. The following evening, the stylist and gown Aunt Lin arranged arrived punctually. I chose a knee-length champagne-colored dress, simple yet elegant, striking the perfect balance between youthfulness and sophistication. The stylist applied a delicate makeup look, gently styling my long hair to reveal my slender neck. Gazing into the mirror at the poised young woman with a serene yet resolute expression, I scarcely recognized the person I had once been. Very well.
Yizili.
This is the person you ought to be. The banquet took place in the grandest hotel ballroom in the city center. As I entered the brilliantly lit venue, invitation in hand, I attracted some curious glances. After all, I appeared quite youthful, and I was a newcomer. Whispers filled the air as many speculated about my identity. I took a deep breath, straightened my back, and donned a composed smile as I made my way to the representative of the hosts. Aunt Lin had already made prior arrangements. Good evening, I am Ji Mingshu's daughter, Ji Zhili. My mother, due to business commitments, is unable to attend and has entrusted me to convey her sincere apologies and congratulations. I extended my hand confidently, my tone poised and respectful. The event organizer, a capable-looking middle-aged man, appeared somewhat taken aback, but quickly welcomed me warmly. Miss G, you are too kind. Having you here is our honor. Mr. G truly has a remarkable daughter. Your poise is extraordinary for your age. After some pleasantries, I accepted a glass of juice from a server, politely mingling on the sidelines. Though still somewhat inexperienced in such settings, I endeavor to speak less, listen more, maintain a smile, and act with propriety. Many approached me, intrigued by my identity, and I navigated the conversations with caution. When inquiries about business matters arose, I deflected, attributing them to my mother's affairs, and instead spoke of my studies and hobbies, preserving an air of mystery while remaining courteous. I could sense that some gazes, which may have initially held disdain or curiosity, gradually transformed into respect and admiration. They began to recognize that I was not merely Ji Mingshu's daughter. I represented an attitude and a promising future. However, discordant notes soon intruded.
Oh.
Who do we have here? Is this not the young lady of the Ji family? A slightly frivolous voice piped up. I turned to see a young man clad in a garish pink suit, his hair slicked back, sauntering toward me with a drink in hand, his eyes assessing me with unwelcome intent. Beside him were several companions who exuded an air of privilege. I recognized him. Zhao Ming, the son of the Zhao family, whose wealth was well known, yet he was notoriously uneducated and a notorious playboy. In my previous life, he had apparently pursued Shin Shu Yi, only to be relegated to the role of a mere backup. Young Master Zhao, I acknowledged with a slight nod, opting not to engage further. Zhao Ming inched closer. Reeking of alcohol, his voice lowered and laced with flippancy. Miss G, I heard you've been causing quite a stir at home lately. Have you really sent your housekeeper packing? Why resort to such measures? As a woman, It's better to be a touch more gentle. Shall I offer you some guidance? His words trailed off abruptly as I raised my hand and splashed the remaining juice from my glass onto his expensive pink suit. The action was swift and decisive, devoid of hesitation.
Ah!
Zhao Ming yelped, leaping back, his suit front now marred by a large wet patch, leaving him in a rather embarrassing state. The surrounding chatter fell silent, all eyes turning towards us. I set down my glass, picked up a napkin to wipe my hands, and fixed Zhao Ming with a frigid gaze, my voice clear and imbued with undeniable authority. Young Master Zhao, mind your language. The Ji family is not to be trifled with. Should this happen again, the liquid on your face will not be juice. Zhao Ming's face flushed crimson with anger as he pointed at me, stammering, "Why you dare to splash me?" His companions quickly gathered around, their expressions menacing. The event organizer hurried over to mediate. "Young Master Zhao, Miss Ji, this is all a misunderstanding." I turned to the organizer, my tone softening yet still laced with coldness. "Mr. Li, I apologize for disrupting the elegance of the soiree. However, someone has spoken disrespectfully, insulting both my mother and me, and I believe the Ji family cannot allow such indignities to pass unchallenged."
Excuse me.
Chapter 11. The incident of splashing Zhao Ming with juice at the soiree, as anticipated, swiftly circulated within our social circle. Yet, the shift in public sentiment surprised some. Most did not perceive me as arrogant. Rather, they believed Zhao Ming had it coming. After all, he had been the one to utter disrespectful remarks, flirting with an underage young lady. The esteemed daughter of the Ji family, being splashed with juice was merely a mild consequence. That scion of debauchery, Zhao Ming, has truly lost all decorum. The Ji family's young lady, though appearing youthful, possesses a fiery temperament reminiscent of her father's past. This is as it should be. The daughter of the Ji family is not a mere plaything for the likes of anyone. It seems the Ji family will not falter under her stewardship. These discussions, relayed through Aunt Lin and other well-meaning souls, reached my ears, though I was not surprised. This circle, after all, thrives on strength. The more resolute and self-assured one appears, the less others dare to underestimate you. In my past life, my constant forbearance only led others to perceive the Ji family as easy prey, consequently diminishing my mother's standing as well. Another matter, however, brought me considerable delight. After several days of illness, Xin Shi finally returned to school. Yet, she clearly underestimated the power of gossip and overestimated her classmates' memory and kindness. Upon entering the classroom, she deliberately donned an old garment, her face pale, eyes slightly swollen, striving to project a fragile aura that would elicit sympathy. Had this been in the past, numerous boys would have rushed to inquire about her well-being, while the girls would surround her, expressing their pity. But today, the classroom was eerily silent. The gazes directed at her were rife with unabashed disdain, mockery, and even a hint of excitement at the unfolding drama. She intended to walk towards her seat only to discover the words "daughter of the housekeeper" scrawled in large chalk letters upon it. Xin Shui's complexion drained of color, her body swaying slightly. "Who did this?" she shrieked, her voice contorted by anger and humiliation. No one answered. Only a few muffled snickers broke the stillness. Lin Shushu sat nearby, her eyes darting away, unable to meet Xin Shui's gaze. Xin Shui fixed her eyes on me suddenly. I was leisurely perusing a book, not even bothering to lift my eyelids.
Yazille.
"Was it you?" She stormed to my desk, pointing an accusatory finger at me. I finally raised my head slowly, my gaze calm as I met hers. "Xin Shui, what madness are you indulging in now? Your poor character and the multitude of people you've offended. Who can you blame?"
You.
Xin Shui trembled with rage, raising her hand as if to strike me. I shot her a cold look, my voice icy as I uttered 2 words. "You dare?" My hand was already poised over my phone's recording button. Xin Shui's hand froze midair, recalling the power of those previous slaps and the recording, ultimately refraining from descending. The frustration of wanting to strike, yet being unable to, was evident on her contorted face.
Yazille.
"You've ruined my family. May you meet a terrible fate." She screamed hysterically, tears mingling with snot, her dignity utterly obliterated. The surrounding classmates whispered and pointed, their discussions unreserved. "Oh, she has broken down? She used to act so innocent, yet her true self is so grotesque. The daughter of a housekeeper is still just that, unworthy of the spotlight. I heard she's now renting a shabby house. Is it true? She deserves it." Malicious at heart, these words struck Xin Shui like daggers. The persona of the pampered young lady she had painstakingly maintained crumbled, revealing the sordid truth beneath. The stark fall from grace was far more painful than any physical blow could have been.
Ah!
Shen Shui cried out in despair, covering her face as she fled the classroom. Chapter 12. After Shen Shui stormed out, she did not return to the classroom for the rest of the day. However, as school ended, I unexpectedly witnessed a scene at a secluded corner of the school gate. Gu Mingling stood with Shen Shui. She was still sobbing, while Gu Mingling wore an impatient expression, though he seemed to be holding back, murmuring something to her, though the distance made it hard to hear. Shen Shui's occasional glances at Gu Mingling, filled with a mix of dependence and grievance, alongside his slightly patronizing attempts at comfort, made it evident they were conspiring. It appeared that my recording had not only shattered Gu Mingling's image, but had also pushed him firmly into Shen Shui's camp. So be it. Let the scoundrel and the schemer be shackled together, no longer to wreak havoc upon others. I had no desire to involve myself, and was about to leave when I noticed Gu Mingling slip a note to Shen Shui before hastily departing. Shen Shui clutched the note, watching his retreating figure with a mix of resentment and grievance, which ultimately morphed into a peculiar resolve and determination. A warning bell rang loudly in my mind. They were undoubtedly plotting something detrimental against me. I refrained from alerting them and quietly followed Shen Shui. She did not head straight home but took a winding route into a rundown and secluded internet cafe. Such a place was clearly not where the former Miss Shen would have ventured. I concealed myself at the alley's entrance, observing her log onto a computer, then cautiously produced the note from Gu Mingling, comparing it to something she was typing into the computer, her expression focused and fierce. What was she up to? Was she planning to post defamatory content about me? Or perhaps contacting unsavory individuals? I discreetly captured a photo of the internet cafe sign and Shen Shui's profile, then swiftly departed. Upon returning home, I immediately contacted Aunt Lin, sharing the situation and the photograph. Aunt Lin, please investigate what Shen Shui is doing at this internet cafe. Also, what did Gu Mingling write on that note? I suspect they're planning something. Aunt Lin replied promptly. Rest assured, Miss Shili, leave it to me. I will find someone to investigate swiftly. With Aunt Lin on the case, I felt a measure of relief, yet my internal vigilance remained unyielding. An open attack is easily dodged, but a covert strike is far more challenging to evade. Shen Shui and Gu Mingling, like cornered animals, might very well lash out in desperation. Chapter 13. Aunt Lin's efficiency was remarkable. By the following afternoon, she provided me with a response that sent a chill down my spine and ignited my fury. Miss Shili, I have uncovered the details. Shen Shui logged into an overseas encrypted chat software at the internet cafe, contacting an individual known by the username Viper. According to captured chat records, Shen Shui made a payment to hire this Viper, intending to seize the opportunity during next week's school trip to the suburban practice base to tarnish your reputation and capture photographic and video evidence to thoroughly disgrace you. My fingers tightened around my phone, nails digging into my palm. To ruin my reputation, to capture photographic and video evidence. Shen Shui, Gu Mingling, how could you be so malicious? The tragic demise of my past life intertwines with the nefarious schemes of this present, causing my very blood to freeze, while an uncontainable hatred surges within me like molten lava. Aunt Lin's voice, laced with suppressed fury, interjects. Furthermore, that note was penned by Gu Mingling, containing a Bitcoin wallet address and a portion of the deposit. It appears that Gu Mingling was not merely an observer. He is likely the mastermind and financier behind this treachery. Excellent. Very well. Gu Mingling, because I have seen through your true nature, causing you to lose face. You resort to such despicable measures to ruin me? Shen Shui, just because you have lost your lavish lifestyle and false glory. You wish to subject me to torment more agonizing than death. You two wretched creatures are unworthy of being called human. Miss Shili, we have contacted the police. They are taking this matter seriously and have dispatched personnel who will apprehend them on site. Aunt Lin inquired whether we should inform Mr. G. Do not tell my mother just yet. I immediately interjected, for she is at a critical juncture and must not be distracted. Aunt Lin, we must cooperate fully with the police. However, merely capturing that Viper and obtaining evidence of Shen Shui and Gu Mingling hiring thugs is insufficient. My gaze was as frigid as steel. What I desire is not simply to send them to a juvenile detention center or to detain them for a few days. I yearn for their utter disgrace, for them to be forever unable to rise again. I wish for them to taste the bitterness of being scorned by all, left with no escape. Aunt Lin, Assist me in a few matters, I whispered my plan to her. Since they have set a trap, I shall lay an even greater one within their scheme. Shen Shuyi, Gu Mingling, you wish to see my downfall? Then, I shall show you what it means to ensnare oneself and reap the bitter fruits of your own actions. Chapter 14. A week later. The suburban practical activity organized by the school commenced as scheduled. Before departure, I distinctly sensed the suppressed excitement and malice in Shen Shuyi and Gu Mingling's glances directed at me. Particularly Shen Shuyi, who, despite her efforts to conceal it, had a glimmer in her eyes akin to a serpent spotting its prey. I smirked inwardly, feigning ignorance on the surface, even deliberately exhibiting a semblance of anticipation and relaxation regarding this outing. On the bus, I sat alone, wearing headphones and listening to music, ostensibly resting my eyes. In reality, I was equipped with the miniature communicator that Aunt Lin had provided. Miss Sheely, all is in place. The police have infiltrated the base staff. The Viper and his 2 accomplices have also arrived, scouting near the abandoned warehouse on the back mountain of the base. We have personnel keeping watch on Shen Shuyi and Gu Mingling as well. Aunt Lin's calm voice came through. Understood, I replied softly, a cold smirk gracing my lips. The show is about to begin. The practical activities at the base were diverse, encompassing agricultural experiences, outdoor challenges, and team-building games. I actively participated, maintaining my usual demeanor. In contrast, Shen Shuyi and Gu Mingling appeared somewhat distracted, frequently exchanging glances with me, or sharing looks that only they could comprehend. In the afternoon, during free time, we could either explore the base or rest in the dormitory. I intentionally wandered toward the secluded back mountain of the base, where a quaint little garden awaited, its scenery quite lovely. Sure enough, not far into my stroll, I caught a glimpse of Shen Shuyi stealthily trailing behind me. Gu Mingling not far off, feigned taking photos while actually keeping watch. The bait was set. I ventured deeper into the little garden, where the shade of trees offered tranquility and few people were around. Shen Shuyi quickened her pace to catch up, her face adorned with a false smile. Sister Zhili, are you wandering alone? I halted, turning to face her. What do you want? Shen Shuyi approached, lowering her voice but unable to mask her malicious intent. Nothing. Just thought the environment here is delightful and wanted to chat with you privately. What could we possibly discuss? I feigned caution, stepping back. About your future, she grinned menacingly, her demeanor transforming into something grotesque. Gee, Zhili, do you think you've won? Forcing me out of your home, making me lose face at school? Let me tell you, you're celebrating too early. Today, I will repay you 100-fold for everything you've inflicted upon me. As her words fell, 3 disreputable men, the very thugs from the photos, sprang forth from the nearby bushes, ropes and duct tape in hand, surrounding me with ill intent. What do you want? I cried out in panic, simultaneously pressing the recording button on my phone and activating the alarm I had prepared. What do we want? Shen Shuyi laughed triumphantly. Why? We are here to properly entertain our esteemed Miss G. Once we capture your spectacular photos and videos, we shall see how you maintain your arrogance. Soon the entire school, no, the entire city, will witness your disgrace. Ji Zhili, your end is nigh. The 3 ruffians leered as they advanced. At that critical moment, police, don't move.
Get down.
Hands on your head. Several stern voices echoed suddenly. Plainclothes officers, having lain in wait nearby, surged forth like divine retribution, swiftly subduing the trio of thugs before they could react. Shen Shuyi's smile froze, replaced by sheer terror and disbelief. No, this can't be. You? How? Gu Mingling also emerged from his hiding spot, his complexion paling to that of a ghost, turning to flee only to be intercepted by 2 other officers. Gu Mingling. Shen Shuyi, you are suspected of hiring thugs to inflict harm. Please accompany us. The leading officer displayed his credentials, his tone grave.
No.
It wasn't me. Ji, Li set me up. Shen Shuyi shrieked in despair, struggling against them. Gu Mingling, too, babbled in a frantic defense. Officer, it's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding. It was Shen Shuyi's idea. I had nothing to do with it. I watched their pitiful spectacle, a bitter irony washing over me. I approached the pale, trembling Shen Shuyi and, in a voice only we could hear, coldly declared, Shen Shuyi, did you think you had secured victory? From the moment you entered that internet cafe, you were already defeated. Competing with me? You are still too immature. Shen Shuyi shot up her head, glaring at me with a gaze filled with despair and frenzied hatred. Ji Li, you will not die a good death. I will not let you go even as a ghost. Rest assured, I replied with a faint smile, my eyes chillingly piercing, before you become a ghost. I shall ensure that your suffering is worse than death. The police took away the frenzied, cursing Shinshui and the ashen-faced Gu Mingling, along with the three thugs. Chapter 15. The news of Shinshui and Gu Mingling being taken away by the police spread like wildfire throughout the practical base, quickly sweeping through the school and beyond. Hiring thugs to ruin someone's reputation is an egregious offense. Everyone was appalled by the shamelessness and ruthlessness of these two wretched souls. The forum was inundated with posts. Accusations, condemnations, and curses proliferated. Those who had previously held a semblance of sympathy for Shinshui or felt I had gone too far now turned their ire upon her. My heavens! Hiring thugs for rape? Is this what humanity has come to? Shinshui and Gu Mingling have truly lost their minds. Such malice. Support Ji Zhili. Lock these scoundrels up. How could the Gu family produce such a son? Shinshui's upbringing clearly reflects the adage that birds of a feather flock together. This time, let us see how they wriggle out of this one. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported me, denouncing Shinshui and Gu Mingling. Everyone believed their downfall was inevitable. Juvenile detention or prison time was a certainty. Even the school swiftly issued a statement expressing grave concern over the matter and promising serious consequences based on the police investigation and school regulations. Everything seemed to be progressing towards a thoroughly satisfying conclusion. However, I did not share the same optimism as the others. I am acutely aware that the Gu and Shin families would never remain passive in the face of adversity. They would certainly devise a means to extricate their kin.
Indeed.
3 days later, astonishing news arrived. Shinshui and Gu Mingling had been released on bail. The justification was that the evidence chain was flawed. And since both were minors exhibiting signs of remorse, coupled with the Gu family's substantial connections and financial resources, a hefty bail had been posted, leading to their conditional release. This news fell like a stone into a boiling pot of oil, igniting even greater public outrage. What an audacity! Is it truly possible to secure one's freedom with wealth? Flawed evidence? Signs of remorse? Such deceit. Where is the sense of justice? If they evade punishment, what law shall prevail in the future? Ji Zhili is utterly tragic. Nearly destroyed, while the perpetrators roam free. Countless individuals have rallied to express their indignation, casting doubt upon the impartiality of our judicial system. Yet, even more jaw-dropping and morally shattering developments were yet to unfold. Just a day after their release, the Gu and Shin families issued a joint declaration, or rather, a piece of joyous news. The essence of the statement was that Gu Mingling and Shinshui, having been childhood sweethearts, were genuinely in love. Despite their youthful indiscretion leading to grave mistakes, their feelings were sincere. Following this incident, both families decided to set aside past grievances and arrange an engagement for the two children. They implored society to grant the youth an opportunity for redemption, emphasizing love and responsibility as guiding forces. Accompanying this declaration was an engagement photograph of Gu Mingling and Shinshui. In the picture, Shinshui donned a cheap white dress, with Gu Mingling's arm draped around her shoulder, both forcing smiles while their eyes darted away, appearing exceedingly ludicrous and ironic. Engaged. Following allegations of attempted murder and sexual assault, not only did they secure bail, but they also hastily announced their engagement. This maneuver has truly redefined the limits of shamelessness. To obscure the focus with an engagement, to elicit sympathy, and to twist a heinous criminal case into a tale of youthful folly driven by love. Online forums and social media erupted in fury. I felt nauseated. What kind of imbeciles are these? Engagement? This is nothing short of a conspiracy, fearing the other might betray them. Is the Gu family sacrificing their reputation to save their son? Realizing their son's name is irreparably tarnished, they choose to bind themselves to Shinshui in mutual ruin?
Ugh.
They speak of mutual affection? I see only a collusion of depravity. May they never emerge to wreak havoc upon others again. Ji Zhili is truly unfortunate. The victim witnessing the perpetrator's engagement? What kind of world is this? Everyone is repulsed by this shameless act, and simultaneously, they express deeper sympathy for my plight. Even I cannot help but admire the audacity of the Gu family and Wang Fangru. To preserve their interests, they've discarded even the last shred of dignity. Shun Honyuan also caught wind of the news. His expression fluctuated, casting furtive glances in my direction, seemingly wishing to say something, but ultimately refraining under my icy gaze. He now fears provoking my displeasure, worried I might divulge everything to my mother. As I gazed at the glaring engagement news on my phone, Alongside Shin Shui's forced smile that could not conceal the resentment lurking in her eyes, I found myself not angered, but rather amused. Truly, you wander into hell when heaven offers you a path. Initially, had you chosen to surrender to justice and face the consequences, perhaps you could have salvaged some semblance of dignity. However, you have opted for the most foolish and provocative course of action against public sentiment. Thus, do not blame me for tearing apart your last veil of modesty. I will expose to the world the grotesque visage lurking beneath the facade of this seemingly perfect couple. An engagement banquet?
Ha!
I shall bestow upon you a gift that will remain etched in your memories for a lifetime. Chapter 16: The Gu and Shin Families. Perhaps seeking to bolster their public image or to solidify this newfound alliance, arranged the engagement banquet with remarkable haste, merely a week following their release on bail. The venue was a modest banquet hall within a 3-star hotel, a stark contrast to the Gu family's usual standards, indicating their diminished stature and dissatisfaction with their future in-laws and daughter-in-law. Nonetheless, this highly publicized engagement banquet attracted a considerable number of guests. Some came genuinely eager for the spectacle, while others, bound by familial ties or business relations, felt obliged to attend. Additionally, numerous gossip journalists gathered outside the hotel, armed with cameras, creating a scene rivaling that of a celebrity's arrival. Ji Zili, as the leading lady in this farce, was naturally among the invited. The invitation was personally delivered by Wang Fangru, who stood at the villa's entrance, unable to enter, and shouted with a forced smile, "Zili in the past."
It was all my fault.
Shui realizes her mistakes. She and Mingling truly love each other. Please, as a mature adult, come bless their engagement. Upon witnessing her detestable countenance on the security monitor, I instructed the guards to escort her away. Yet, of course, I would attend. How could I miss such a riveting spectacle? On the day of the engagement banquet, I deliberately arrived fashionably late, clad in a modest yet undeniably elegant black cocktail dress. I made my entrance at the banquet hall door, and the previously raucous atmosphere fell into a momentary hush. All eyes converged upon me, some filled with sympathy, others with curiosity, scrutiny, and excitement for the unfolding drama. Today, I had not made a concerted effort to adorn myself, yet the cold and formidable aura I exuded, a result of my rebirth, rendered me strikingly conspicuous amidst the crowd. In sharp contrast, the main protagonists, Shin Shui and Gu Mingling, appeared woefully lackluster and awkward. Shin Shui was clad in an ill-fitting, somewhat dated white gown, her face caked in heavy makeup that could not disguise her pallor and fatigue. She forced a smile, which was more grotesque than a frown. Gu Mingling, on the other hand, donned a constricting suit, his expression dark and eyes averted, clearly unwilling to meet my gaze. He emanated an air of despondency and hostility. Wang Fangru and Shun Fuchuan stood nearby, dressed in garish outfits incongruous with the occasion, plastering forced smiles as they greeted the sparse guests, appearing utterly ridiculous. Gu Mingling's parents, their faces ashen, occupied the main seats, clearly uncomfortable, overwhelmed by the embarrassment of the engagement and their in-laws. My arrival was akin to a stone cast into still waters, sending ripples of whispers throughout the room. Ji Zili has truly arrived. She appears so composed, so commanding. The contrast was stark. Shin Shui resembled a clown in her presence. How blind the Gu family must be, forsaking a true phoenix for the daughter of a maid. Shu, keep your voice down. Ignoring the murmurs, I strode confidently toward the front of the banquet hall. Upon noticing me, Wang Fengru's face flashed a moment of panic, yet she mustered the courage to approach. Feigning nonchalance, "Zili, you've arrived. Please take a seat." I disregarded her, my gaze fixated on Shin Shui and Gu Mingling. Shin Shui squirmed under my scrutiny, instinctively retreating behind Gu Mingling. He, however, stiffened his neck and barked, "Ji Zili, what are you doing here? You are not welcome." I offered a slight smile, one that did not reach my eyes, my voice resonating clearly across the banquet hall. "I am here, of course, to present a congratulatory gift to the loving couple. My dear cousin and young Master Gu." All ears perked up, and even the journalists turned their cameras in my direction. Shin Shui and Gu Mingling's faces paled in terror, a foreboding sense of dread washing over them. Wang Fangru hastily attempted to defuse the situation. "Zili, there's no need for a gift. Your presence alone is." I raised my hand to silence her, retrieving a finely crafted USB drive from my purse and holding it aloft. This gift was a compilation of videos chronicling their journey from childhood friends to lovers, then to adversaries, and ultimately reconciling to become engaged. I paused momentarily, my gaze sweeping over the curious faces in the crowd, ultimately settling on the pallid visages of Xin Shui and Gu Mingling. Each word I uttered resonated like a solemn decree, particularly concerning how you two, in a mutual affection, conspired to hire a venomous serpent, plotting to obliterate my detailed experiences at the practical training base. As my voice faded, an oppressive silence enveloped the room. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Chapter 17. No. You are speaking nonsense. That is a fabrication. Shen Shui shrieked desperately, attempting to rush forward to seize the USB drive. Gu Mingling, too, was thoroughly flustered, shouting, "Stop her. She is insane. She is framing us." But it was too late. My prearranged staff swiftly stepped forward, snatching the USB drive and connecting it to the banquet hall's projection equipment at lightning speed. Instantly, the colossal screen began to display a series of edited, yet substantively intact videos and screenshots of chat records. There were surveillance clips of Shen Shui logging into foreign software at a dilapidated internet cafe. There were close-ups of her negotiating with the venomous serpent, detailing specific operational plans. There was Gu Mingling passing a note to Shen Shui, along with a close-up of the Bitcoin address and amount inscribed on it. Additionally, there were audio snippets of Gu Mingling and Shen Shui conspiring in a corner, each blaming the other for their actions. The evidence was irrefutable. The clarity and conclusiveness of this evidence surpassed any prior rumors laid bare before all the guests and reporters. Initially, the banquet hall was shrouded in a deathly silence, quickly erupting into a cacophony of outrage and condemnation. My heavens! It truly is them. The chat records are utterly revolting. They even discuss specific details. Gu Mingling funded it. What scum! Just a moment ago, they pretended to be innocent?
Bah.
Call the police. Hurry, call the police. Journalists frantically clicked their cameras, capturing this astonishing reversal. Alongside the newlyweds' ghostly pale and utterly despairing expressions on stage, Gu Mingling as parents leapt to their feet, their faces shifting from a sickly green to ashen white. Their bodies trembling, nearly fainting. They had not anticipated that their son had left behind such incontrovertible evidence. The Gu family's reputation was utterly tarnished today. Wang Fangru collapsed onto the floor, pounding her thighs and wailing, "It's all false. All of it is false. Ji Zhili, may you suffer a terrible fate." Shen Shui completely unraveled, pointing at Gu Mingling and screaming, "It's you. You forced me. You said that if I destroyed Ji Zhili, the Gu family would accept me. It was all your idea." Gu Mingling, too, was filled with rage, shoving Shen Shui aside. "Nonsense. It was you, you wretched woman, who seduced me. You said if I helped you, you'd share half of the Ji family's fortune with me." It was a dog-eat-dog scenario, spiraling completely out of control. Just then, the grand doors of the banquet hall swung open, and several uniformed police officers entered with grave expressions. "Shen Shui, Gu Mingling, you're suspected of hiring an assassin. We have new, significant evidence. Please accompany us for further investigation. This is your detention warrant." Cold handcuffs clamped down on the wrists of the newly engaged couple. Amidst countless cameras and scornful gazes, amidst the desperate cries and curses of their parents, Shen Shui and Gu Mingling were led out of the banquet hall like two lifeless dogs by the police. Chapter 18. The image of Shen Shui and Gu Mingling being handcuffed and taken away at their engagement banquet became the hottest topic across all major media outlets and social platforms for the following week. The evidence was as solid as a rock, and public outcry was relentless. This time, no matter how many connections the Gu family possessed or how much wealth they had, they were powerless to turn the tide. Following this incident, Shan Hongyuan became utterly subdued. He knew better than anyone that I had long ceased to be the daughter he could control or even comprehend. He grew cautious, even somewhat obsequious, fearful that one day I might reveal to my mother the unsavory role he played in this affair. With Shen Shui and Gu Mingling imprisoned, Wang Fangru had gone mad and returned to her hometown, while our impoverished relatives had been thoroughly purged. The villa regained its rightful tranquility and opulence. Yet beneath this calmness surged a current of unspoken tension. The most restless of all was my father, Shen Hongyuan. He moved about the house as if on tiptoes, like a startled bird. Each time he saw me, his eyes were filled with a complex array of emotions, lingering embarrassment from his diminished stature as a father, fear of my current capabilities, and a profound dread of retribution. He attempted to appease me, no longer daring to adopt the previous authoritative demeanor of "I am your father." Nor would he mention anything about forgiveness or family unity. for he was acutely aware that from the moment he chose to side with Wang Fangru and her daughter, allowing them to bully me, the already tenuous bond between us had been irrevocably severed. He could now reside peacefully in this villa, not because he remained the master of the house, but due to my temporary forbearance. This realization pricked at him like a thorn, day and night. However, fate's judgment would not be delayed by his anxiety. A month later, my mother, Ji Mingshu, returned home after concluding crucial negotiations abroad, weary from her travels. On the day of her return, she did not notify Shen Hongyuan, but went straight home. It was early evening, and Shen Hongyuan was seated on the sofa, his mind restless as he stared at the television, though he absorbed nothing. When I entered the living room, entwined with my mother's arm, he startled upright from the sofa, his complexion draining of color, the remote control clattering to the floor. Mingshu? Why are you back? He stammered, unsure where to place his hands and feet. My mother, dressed in a sharp business suit, bore the fatigue of a long flight. Yet it did not mask the sharpness and chill in her gaze. She did not look at Shen Hongyuan but rather surveyed the long mist, now tranquil home before her eyes slowly settled on him. That gaze held no joy of reunion, no warmth of marital affection, only an unfathomable coldness and utter disappointment. If I do not return, do you intend to wait until my daughter is harmed, with no one to care? My mother's voice was not loud, yet it bore the weight of 1,000 tons, crashing down upon Shen Hongyuan's heart. He trembled, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. Mingshu, let me explain. It wasn't he like that, it was Li. She had her faults too. Enough. My mother interrupted sharply, her eyes like daggers. Shen Hongyuan, even now, you still wish to shift the blame onto Li? Lin has informed me of all the vile deeds Wang Fangru and her daughter committed, the recordings, the evidence. And you, as a father, what did you do at that time? You not only failed to protect your daughter, but also aided outsiders in bullying her, forcing her to apologize to the daughter of the very nanny who sought to harm her. Have you lost your conscience? My mother's pent-up fury and disappointment erupted like a volcano, each word striking Shen Hongyuan like a whip. He was rendered speechless, his face flushed with shame, retreating 2 steps before collapsing onto the sofa, his hands covering his face. I was confused at the time. Fangru and the others, he tried to defend himself. Confused about what? Confused about how to cater to them comfortably? My mother scoffed, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Shen Hongyuan, I truly was blind. I thought that although you lacked ability, you would at least have a good nature and be responsible for the family. It appears now that you are not only incompetent but also foolish, selfish, and unable to discern right from wrong. You are utterly unworthy of being a husband, let alone a father. These words shattered Shen Hongyuan's final semblance of pretense and dignity. He suddenly lifted his head, his eyes red, infused with a passionate recklessness. Yes, I am incompetent. I rely on you, Ji Mingshu, but I am also a man. What status do I have in this family? Even the servants dare to ride roughshod over me. So, you sought to regain your pitiful status and dignity by condoning outsiders in bullying your own daughter? My mother's gaze had turned glacial. Shen Hongyuan, you are both pathetic and laughable. My mother turned away from him, as though even a moment's glance was too sullied for her. She turned to me, her gaze instantly softening with a tinge of heartache. Li, I am so sorry. It was my fault for returning late, causing you to endure so much unfairness. I shook my head and clasped my mother's hand.
Mom, I'm fine.
It's all in the past now. She gently patted the back of my hand and then turned her attention back to Shen Hongyuan, whose face was ashen. Her tone regained the decisiveness and coldness characteristic of a businesswoman. Shen Hongyuan, let us proceed with the divorce. Shen Hongyuan abruptly lifted his head, his eyes brimming with disbelief and panic. No, Mingshu, we cannot divorce. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Divorce? He could never allow it. Without Ji Mingshu, Shen Hongyuan was nothing. He would forfeit his opulent lifestyle, the flattery of others, and lose everything. A second chance? My mother seemed to have heard a jest. I have granted you ample opportunities. From the moment you began to favor your impoverished relatives, I issued my warning. Yet, you only escalated your transgressions. This time, you nearly caused irreparable harm to my daughter. There is no room for negotiation. My mother retrieved a pre-prepared divorce agreement from her briefcase and tossed it onto the coffee table. Review this document. Given your failure to fulfill your duties as a husband and father during our marriage, which has inflicted severe emotional distress upon our daughter, your entitlements are limited. You will only receive the small apartment in the suburbs and a sum sufficient for your basic living expenses. You have no claim to the company's shares or primary assets. Sign here, and we will proceed with the formalities tomorrow. My mother's arrangements were decisive and unyielding, devoid of any hesitation. She had completely lost faith in this man. Shun Hongyuan gazed at the agreement, his hands trembling violently. That meager property was an affront to someone accustomed to a life of luxury. He collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he clutched my mother's legs. Ming-Shu, I beg you, consider our years as a couple. I cannot go through with this divorce. My life would be over. My mother repulsively withdrew her leg, her gaze devoid of sympathy. Years as a couple? Shun Hongyuan, did you ever think of our years together when you aided outsiders in bullying Lili? Did you consider our family when you reveled in the fruits of my labor while allowing others to scheme against us? Lin Lin. My mother called out. Aunt Lin Lin, who had been waiting outside, promptly entered with 2 bodyguards. Please escort Mr. Shen out. Do not let him set foot in here again until he is signed. Yes, Ms. G, the bodyguards affirmed. They advanced and unceremoniously lifted the feeble Shun Hongyuan, dragging him out of the villa. Ming-Shu.
Lili.
I was wrong. I truly understand my mistakes. Please. Shun Hongyuan's desperate cries faded into the night, ultimately vanishing into the darkness. The living room fell silent once more. My mother, weary, rubbed her temples and then embraced me tightly. Lili, from now on it will just be the 2 of us. I will protect you and ensure no one ever bullies you again. I returned her embrace, feeling her warmth and unwavering strength. Mom, I will protect you too. I will become strong so that no one can harm us again. From that moment on, the biased, cowardly, and morally ambiguous man who was my father was entirely eradicated from our lives. He lost his marriage, his wealth, his family, and even the last vestiges of his dignity. In the years to come, he could only cling to his meager possessions, tasting the bitter fruits of his own making amid regret and the scorn of others. And this was precisely the conclusion he deserved.
The end.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe and show your support with a like. Until we meet again for the next tale.